so cold outside, but you're in the right place. This is the only right place to be in New York tonight. Thank you for being here. My name is Thomas Lafley. I'm a film critic for Variety and RogerEbert.com. And I'm a member of New York Film Critics Circle. I am just so honored to be here tonight. I love this movie. I've seen it a number of times. So without further ado, allow me to introduce our guests. Please welcome Kit Harington. Noémie Merlant. And writer director Bess Wohl. Just move my chair so I can see everyone. Hi.
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 I want to start with you, Bess. This is such an incredibly assured filmmaking debut. So tell us a little bit about your beginnings with this project. So, no pun intended, how you gave birth to a baby movie as your first film.
The puns are just unavoidable. Really.
Right.
Thank you. Let's see. Before I start, I just wanted to quickly shout out a few of our cast members who are just here also. Jane Atkinson, the marvelous Jane Atkinson, from Mother Not, and I also want to shout out the brilliant Reed Burney. And I don't know if Susan Porcar is still here, but she is. She is also brilliant in the film. So anyway, I just had to do that because it was so amazing in the movie. So thank you guys. And to answer your question, this film really came. It was a very personal story for me. I'm a mother of 3. I love my children very much. I feel like it's important to say that. But I felt that the experience of motherhood hadn't been told in the way that I thought it should be or needed to be, or I wanted to express it that way. And I noticed as I became a mother that a lot of the moments that I was having, these little glimmers that I sort of expanded for the film, felt like they related to genre movies that I had seen. And so the whole thing sort of combined in my head, and that was the genesis of the film.
And I want to bring the cast in, Kit and Noémie. So tell us a little bit about your beginnings with the project. What made you connect to these characters and say yes to the script? And Noémie, this is your first English language movie, as I know. So talk a little bit about that. Maybe we can start with you.
I'm a bit jet lagged. I'm not a mother, and thanks to this movie, I don't think I will. But I was really questioning myself before this movie, and when I read the script, I was, God, Bess, it talks to me a lot because this is my nightmare. And that's why I don't do a baby, because I'm sure it will happen like this. And I have to do this movie because I feel like I know it already. And thanks to you, no, I stopped to joke, but it's, no, it was fabulous for me to read a script like this because, yeah, I mean, that's why it's fabulous, this movie, because it's not only for mother or for parents, it's also, I mean, it talks about so many things, and me, I didn't find a space in the society really to talk about my fears as a non-mother, you know, and I don't know, it was very, very deep conversation, really deep, you know, what you see in the movie, it's like, it's risky, it's violent, it's comic also, and to talk about it this way with all this idea of mise en scène. Have you seen mise en scène?
Yeah.
Mise en scène. Mise en
This
scène.
audience
With the mise en scène. Yeah. So yeah, I read the script and I said, it's fabulous. I want to be part of this project. And then on set it was, and yeah, I was, it's going to be hard with the English. But you guys helped me a lot, so thank you very much for this.
Yeah, I am a dad. Soon to be a dad of 2. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So I took this script landed on my desk when I had a screaming infant upstairs. So I decided to go and do a movie about a screaming infant. I just loved it. I think it did speak to me because I was new into parenthood, and as much as this movie is fundamentally about Jo, the character's journey through motherhood and the trauma and psychosis that she experiences, there was a part of it, and I spoke to Bess about that. There was a story of the father here, and the person that was outside of that experience and trying to understand it, and trying to help the person he loves more than anything through it. The thing that really struck me when I first became a dad was that it was the first time there was a pull. You know, I remember my son was born, and he was put on a little trolley, and my wife was being sewn up. And for the first time, I would always have gone to my wife to look after her. For the first time, I was suddenly split. Who do I go and look after? And in the end, my wife's with the doctor. She's okay, look after my son whose eyes can't handle the lights. And, I think that there's something in this movie about that with Spencer of who do I look after here, the baby or his partner. So it really, it affected me on that one. I thought it was.
And it sounds like you tapped into a lot of personal reserves to get into that space of Spencer.
Yeah, I tapped into that and whatever energy I had left.
And Noémie, I want to ask you as a follow-up to that, your performance, I love it. It operates sort of in 2 levels. We meet the before and after baby, after baby, and you're still kind of trying to hold on to that former self. So you're almost 2 people in this movie. So tell us about crafting the performance around that, which is incredibly complicated and beautiful.
Thank you. I'm always 2 people, so I don't know. I don't know. It's a hard question. We worked on we worked before the movie with Bess and with Stephanie Shen, who is the choreographer, and I wanted to work first with the body language before I gave birth, and after, just with the body, how you connect with your own body, with the space, with the other person, with you remember?
I remember, yeah, just come back to me.
The first time we met, I asked him, can we do that, please, kids?
I've completely forgotten about it. It was great though.
It was interesting, no?
It was interesting, yeah. None of them know what we're talking about. We did some movement work together, which was very intimate for 2 people who just met for the first time. But that's good, it's like you put it back a bit.
Yeah, because we didn't have a long time to do this movie, actually, so, yeah. And no, it's hard to, it's not easy to explain, because also we don't shoot in the chronological thing, so I was really referring to Bess, because I was in the instinct, and just dealing with the sincerity of the scene, and with Spencer, with the baby, with the I don't know how to explain this. It's not so easy,
But it sounds like you did work not just emotionally, but also occupying the physical space to kind of land onto the performance, which is
because
very
there is
precise.
something really animal in I don't know, in the character, I mean, in this situation, it's not only in for me, it was not only in the brain, you know, it was also, and what I liked is, I reference this a lot, because since I don't, and it was interesting because I never had a baby, and there is no babies around me in my family or my friends, and so I didn't know how to take the babies. I didn't know how to do, and each time they were crying, I was really like, they cry because, you know, this thing that people who doesn't know babies, they always think that when a baby cries because they don't like you. So I was really like, this baby doesn't want to work with me. but then it was, they were, because there were two really good actors. That's what they were, you know, sometimes they grab my, yeah, it was true. We didn't, they were doing a lot of proposition and right on time.
But hopefully not your earrings.
Yeah.
Bess, I want to turn to you. You mentioned in the beginning that you know, some genre movies that you know you were thinking about, and this is a beautiful genre film. You're definitely pushing kind of the borders of horror. I was thinking a little bit about Rosemary's Baby, but then you also have a lot of sense of humor in the movie that just comes out when you least expect it. So tell us about maybe crafting the movie with all those elements in mind and balancing them.
Yeah, I think balancing the tone was really one of the hardest parts of making this film, you know, because I always love work that kind of exists on this razor's edge of like, is it funny, is it scary, is it sad, what genre is it? And I wanted that for this film, and it was continually trying to figure out how to calibrate it so we didn't fall too far into horror or fall too far into comedy, you know. And it's been interesting sharing it with people, seeing reactions and seeing some people receive it as a really scary movie and some people receive it as a funny movie. And you know, all of my favorite horror films or thrillers, psychological thrillers, have some kind of comedy in them, you know, like Rosemary's Baby or The Shining, or you know, films like that I kept using as reference points, you know. The Babadook was another movie I thought about a lot. Black Swan was a big point of inspiration. But you know, everything sort of is it funny? Is it scary? Where does it land? And I think the sort of North Star was the authenticity of the performances. Noémie and Kit, I felt like if we stayed in a truthful zone with them and with all of the actors, we could sort of use that as our North Star and like dance around tone in other places, however we wanted. And then also a lot came out in the edit too, of just calibrating the tone in the edit was very delicate.
And I think you were also playing with some design elements to find some of the tonalities. You know, there's this one scene that I love when Joe for the first time meets a group of mothers. They're all in these breezy floral dresses and hats. It almost looks like this very pretty looking Instagram-y cult in a way. So tell us about crafting that image that really made me laugh out loud.
Yeah, we called them like the fairy, witchy mother. You know, we had all these different names for them, and we were all like running around the Hudson Valley. You know, we would go by a store and be like, that's a dress that one of the moms did, you know. And a lot of it was also from my closet and our amazing, I mean, there's so much of my clothing in this movie. Right? And yours too, and Tilly Grimes, our costume designer, who was amazing, who was fantastic. Also brought in her clothing, so you may have seen Tilly's clothes in it too. But I had this very specific vision that I wanted them to exist. I mean, like so much of this film, like sort of on the edge of reality. You know, the sort of it's not naturalism. I kept saying to like everyone who came into the world of these two characters, you know, this is like a little bit heightened, a little bit strange. Think about The Shining, think about, you know, that sort of sense of like, is this real or not? And I knew they had to look gorgeous and glowy, and you know, we had like 3 minutes of the light hitting that picnic table perfectly when we met them, and then the picnic table just looked boring again 3 minutes later, so we just like caught that little moment.
And you also have a very specific color palette and the way you use camera, and it makes sense with the movies you're referencing, like The Shining and Black Swan. It feels very claustrophobic and increasingly claustrophobic. So what was your vision going into that, and how did you work with your cinematographer?
Yeah, well, I was lucky to work with Juan Pablo Ramirez, who's an incredible cinematographer, and he and I really crafted the visual language, we were really interested in sort of defamiliarizing mundane things, like the horror of the sort of everyday, the horror of just like you think it's night and you open the door and it's daytime. Like, what are those little moments that we can sort of find and sort of defamiliarize and sort of have people sort of see in a new way. We're really interested in a very sort of muted palette of greens and blues, and it's sort of, it's just sort of an aesthetic that came to us feeling that the red would really sort of puncture that in an interesting way. The whole movie felt a little bit desaturated almost in certain moments. We were interested in sort of breaking up her body a lot in the film. Like, you meet her, at that table, one of the first shots, she's like headless, and then you just see her belly, and then you just see a hand, and then you just see, we were interested in sort of creating this fragmented woman and then integrating her through the film so that when you leave her, she's in a giant wide and she's one whole person at the end. So those were the kind of things we talked about while we storyboarded.
And this is a question for both you and Noémie. You're not shying away from showing some of the, scars and blood and cracks in the body and everything. And there are scenes that you need to be really vulnerable in front of the camera. So how did you two work on those scenes together that just comes out really truthfully and beautifully? You can start with you.
Well, Noémie,
I'm not sure I understood the question.
yeah, and the sort of intimate things, like how
intimate things.
like I would say that one of the things is that Noémie is, and you can probably tell this from her performance, like a completely fearless actor, and she just, and she just went for it, not afraid. I mean, from the moment that Kit and Noémie met and were like rolling around on the floor of a Marriott hotel in Poughkeepsie during the network, it was just like really just they don't do anything halfway, and I felt like you trusted me. I don't know why, but very quickly. And you probably don't know why. The other thing is we were working so fast, so it just makes the achievement even more magnificent to me. Like the scene in the bathroom right after giving birth. I mean, I think that was like just 10 minutes. Like, okay, we have 10 minutes left in the day. Go in. We're gonna get this right now. We're gonna get this, and it just, you were able to just drop in so quickly. It's really magical. I don't know how you did it.
Thank you, but what I want to say is for the intimate scene, it's not that I'm not fearless, but when I choose to work on a movie, and we choose to work together, but there is huge, strong ideas, and when you are when you're carrying with a strong idea, as an actress, everything is an instrument. My voice, my body, naked or not naked, but I give all to the service of the vision I believe in and of the person I follow, and I trust, and also in her behavior and in kids' behavior, they were so just having the good gaze, the good generosity, but distance with this. I don't know how to say that, but so I felt safe, and so there were no. Oh, and it's the first time I had to work with the coordinator of
Intimacy.
Yeah, it was the first time, but it was interesting with Meredith. The scene with Meredith. Yeah.
And before taking some audience questions, I want to ask a specific thing that I've been wondering. You have a very, precise job in the movie and no waste butcher. I'm wondering where that idea came from and what kind of conversations you two had about maybe the backstory about that. It is a, very specific occupation that I thought maybe there is a significance.
You know, I've thought about that a lot, like, why did I do that? But I knew someone who was an artisanal butcher, and sometimes when I meet someone with an interesting job, I kind of like pocket it, you know, for later. But I've thought about it more since I feel like it kind of like is the sweet spot of what I was trying to do in this movie, which is like, it's scary because it's a butcher, but it's an artisanal butcher, so it's also a little bit funny and heightened. So like, in that job is kind of like a microcosm of what I was trying to do. And then Kit, you were beautifully like not wanting Spencer to take himself too seriously in the, like, when it's mentioned.
You can't take yourself seriously if you're not artisanal.
Yeah. No offense to all the artisanal butchers here tonight. Yeah, exactly. But you wanted it to, but beautifully, you know, Kit like learned how to butcher the meat and, you know, worked with, you know, was very serious about doing it.
Yeah.
Great. Let's take some questions. Oh, come on, don't be shy. You must have some. I see a hand back there. Yes, you?
Oh, right. So, firstly, I just want to say congratulations on creating such a beautifully complete film from beginning to end. I feel like every question was answered and done so brilliantly. But I was very interested in the queer elements of the film and what commentary you meant to make with that.
I think everyone heard the question, but just to repeat, first congratulating on a complete, beautiful film, and also the queer elements of the film, if you can comment on that.
I feel like for me, a lot of it, just in terms of where it came from, had to do with Noémie's character's feeling of being sort of out of sync with her sexuality, her femininity, her own relationship to desire at all. And she sort of, obviously her relationship with her husband is sort of deteriorating, and she's searching for some kind of comfort and connection and a feeling of freedom with somebody. And I think Meredith's character, Shelley, is searching for that too. So I think there was something that I was interested in exploring about these two people needing to be seen, needing to find each other, needing to connect in a moment where they felt totally disconnected from any sort of authentic or sexual or desired or desiring part of themselves.
Let's take a couple more. I see a hand there. Yes?
Yeah, I was wondering, like, so it feels like a lot of people in my generation try to escape the previous generation and don't think they'll become the kind of like housewives, or, you know, boring lives that their parents were raised. But then they escape to the Hudson Valley and they kind of become stepmothers. Spend a lot of money on fancy dresses and artisanal butchers, that kind of thing. So I was just wondering if you could speak to that aspect of the film, if you were making like a kind of political commentary on that kind of cycle.
The question is about maybe the political cycle your movie might be addressing, you know, a certain privileged type of people escaping a generational lifestyle of raising children, but falling into another trap. So what are you thinking about those elements?
It's a really interesting question. I think it's definitely in there, and of course with the character of Doris, there's a sense of sort of generational legacy and sort of the things that Doris never got to express or feel seen about sort of repeating themselves in this couple, you know. So I think that's definitely in there, and I do think in terms of sort of commenting on, you know, I feel a lot of sort of confusion about, you know, how to reinvent, but also sort of honor the legacy of the generation that came before and not reject. And so I think Noémie's character and Kit's character, they're both sort of trying to figure out who they want to be as parents and who they want to be in a domestic situation. And obviously Noémie's character doesn't have any template. She doesn't have a relationship with her own mother. She doesn't have anything to draw on. So she's kind of figuring it out for herself, which I think is part of why it's so terrifying for her in the film.
We have time for a couple more. Yes, you.
I was wondering at what point in the process the kaleidoscope shots became part of the film.
Question about kaleidoscope shots and what part of the process they become a part of the movie.
Yeah, it's another great question. I always say that doubling and sort of multiplicity of identities for Joe was really important to me in the film, the sense of like how, you know, obviously when you become a parent, one identity has to go and another one has to come, and how do you balance these new identities? And like, for example, on her website, you see like 10 of her immediately. So there were all of these sort of opportunities for seeing multiple, where we had lots of reflection shots throughout the film, but the exact sort of kaleidoscopic shots or the composite shots were things that we discovered in the edit. And I think they were seeded in the way we shot the film, but we didn't know exactly how we were gonna do them until we were in the editing room.
Let's take maybe one more. Oh, yes.
You were speaking about time constraints, so I was just curious about how many days you had to film, as well as when the film starts, it's right before she gives birth, and then the scene where it's a month later. So by the end of the film, how much time has elapsed, and what the hell was going on with those gutters?
A number of
That's a good
questions
question.
around time, how long it took to shoot, and how much time has passed in the course of the story, and the question about gutters. What was up with that?
Yeah.
You're a playwright,
Yes.
and this is your first screenplay.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, as a playwright and a screenplay writer, how your experience as a playwright helped you with this, and did you enjoy this more than being a playwright?
And another question to add on to that time question. You're both a playwright and a narrative writer now, and how did that help you being a playwright, writing the screenplay? You have a lot to answer.
I have a lot. You feel free to chime in and help me out, anyone else on stage. The gutters, I remember that one. I just wanted a sense of menace, you know, from these men, and, you know, this sort of sense of like she's isolated but she's not alone, and the sound of the construction, and this feeling also of being sort of in a new place and sort of on unstable ground. So that was sort of what they're also sort of a red herring, like who are these creepy guys? Did he drop a wrench on her head, which for me was a reference to Don't Look Now and the sort of construction scene in that, you know. So that, and in terms of time, the movie's intentionally very sort of bends time a lot in weird ways. And you're meant to get a little lost in the time and not really know, like that great moment where her assistant is like, it's been a month, and he's just like, you know, the hope is that the audience will sort of go on that ride too and sort of be intentional. And I like, you know, I wanted the delivery to be like nothing, you know, like a blink, and you know, the sense of like things are not taking the amount of time I thought they should. In terms of how much time has elapsed in the movie, I think she, you know, she's in rehab for a couple months and then comes back to sort of a new Ruby and doesn't know how to how to meet her new child, or her old child who feels like a new child. Thank you for your question, Jane. In terms of playwriting, both are really close to my heart. This was an amazing experience with an incredible cast and crew, and I couldn't have asked for anything more. And it definitely is an amazing new set of tools to play with in storytelling that are different from the tools you have to playwright. But I also really love writing plays, and I found that, you know, the thing that it came down to that I could bring from playwriting into this was just character, you know, character.
We probably have time for, yes, right here.
So when you wrote the screenplay, was Joe's character originally supposed to be French, or was that something that factored in after you had cast Noémie?
Question about Joe's character, was she always French, or did you change that after you cast Noémie?
She was not always French. I knew that I wanted her to be an outsider, or a sense of fish out of water, which is partly why in the screenplay she's new in the Hudson Valley. She's just moved there, she's just renovated, and so she's very isolated. Then when I found out that Noémie might be interested in doing the film, I rewrote it for her, and I felt that her being French just enriched everything to me because it allowed us to comment on the sort of uniquely dysfunctional American relationship to maternal care and postpartum, the postpartum period, and in a very organic way. So it sort of allowed me this sort of layer of social commentary and also increased her feelings of isolation. You know, there wasn't as much of a sense of like, can't you just call someone? You know, it was like really a sense of she's really all alone and a cultural outsider. And so it just lent a lot of richness to the role.
And on that, sorry.
I was just going to say, for any young woman in the audience, like, really push in this country for more care after you give birth, because I think both me and Noémie, who are both European, were slightly shocked at the lack of care given to mothers. So if you're young now and you're thinking about having children in the future, push now for it, I think.
And that also brings up, obviously, we're in this country in the post-Roe v. Wade world. Lack of care, and also just this forced idea that you can have an abortion if you choose to. I think these films like this are extremely important to share with the audiences, so thank you for that.